He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
All right, this is the Alex Marlow Show, and I'm very happy to see all of you. We're doing incredibly well. Our best ranking we've ever had on Apple, so thanks to all of you for making that possible. Very exciting. You know, if I was really competitive, I would call out all the big shows we're beating now on Apple, but I'm not going to do that because that's classless, and I like a lot of those shows. But it's very good, so thank you for telling 10,000 friends and family members about all the hard work we're doing, and we work really hard over here, and it's only going to get better. The quicker we grow, the quicker we will grow. It's actually how this stuff works. I was over at Charlie's show earlier in the week. He's got like 8 people. I've got Misty part-time. I mean, that's it. It's just one and a half of us. And we're doing pretty well so far. So thanks to all of you. We're having a good time as well. I'll start today with the fun and I would say the top line news, the lead stories. We're recording this at Breitbart News. The House has censured Al Green for disrupting Trump's address. And only 10 Democrats apparently supported this. I just don't understand. Most of you are old enough to remember when I think is it Joe Walsh? I think that was his name. The guy who yelled at Barack Obama whenever it was, you lie during the State of the Union. And that was considered the greatest offense. It was actually racist. It was racist to yell that. And Al Green just gets up and tries to shout down Trump. Looks terrible. And he's been censured, waving his cane at people. Remember, he's also the guy who wants to impeach Trump over nothing. Impeachment used to mean something. It used to have it was a standard that was very tough to reach in this country. And it was a word that had a weight to it when you were talking about impeachment. And he completely cheapened that single-handedly by just constantly trying to impeach Trump. He looked like a total fool. People are pointing out what's going on in Texas. He's a Texas congressman. Our friend, Miss Crockett, Jasmine Crockett, she's from Texas as well. So Texas, you guys, look, I'm in California, so I take a lot of heat for our bad politicians. You guys are on notice. You guys have been selected to have to explain yourselves. But I got some footage of the censure. This is from Fox. I'm going to share this with some of you.
Is that he will call Congressman Green to the well. Oh, there we go. Let's listen in.
To answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh. Will Representative Green present himself to the well? By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
I'm laughing because the Democrats are singing. I think that's "We Shall Overcome." I mean, it just shows you that they don't have a message. It's just pathetic. They yell, they're shouting. And those of you missing the visuals, and I miss the visuals. I understand this. This is a constant refrain on the show. If I catch up on the show to make sure it's sounding good, I throw in the headphones, I do the dishes, and I walk the dog and that stuff. But it's those of you who miss the visuals, you're seeing the Democrats who have their hands over their heart. They won't stand for the national anthem, but they will stand to sing "We Shall Overcome" in the well of the House because Green's getting censured for being blatantly disruptive and making a mockery of the serious event that is the State of the Union. So anyway, not a good look for Democrats. And this is kind of where we are, is that they have been forced into a corner where they're forced to back all sorts of nonsense, the nonsense spending, the men and women's sports, the every government job is a permanent job, et cetera, et cetera. That's where they're at. And then now for a complete lack of decorum. So they're the ones who are the stewards of democracy, but you can't even give a speech without getting yelled at and shouted down. Such a pathetic effort. I went on a Lesotho rabbit hole. You guys know that Trump calling out Lesotho as getting all of this money for LGBTQI plus, as Trump put it in the State of the Union, with that brilliant laundry list of stuff Doge has uncovered. And I had not heard of Lesotho, as I mentioned on yesterday's show. And so on the Alex Marlow Show, I'm going to bring you all the details on Lesotho. It's a mountain kingdom that is entirely encompassed by South Africa. So it is like the Vatican City in that it is completely surrounded. The photos online make it seem quite beautiful. It was formed by King Moshoeshoe in the 19th century, who retreated to the high country, which his warriors could defend from British encroachment, according to Joel Pollack, who's our resident South African on the Breitbart staff. It is rain and snow and therefore is a source of water for Johannesburg and South Africa. It also provides migrant labor for the South African mines. It's very poor and still run badly by a constitutional monarchy. It's mostly ignored, but a documentary in the 90s, Joel writes, about a gay migrant who can only be out in South Africa probably motivated the LGBTQI plus grant from the USAID. So the people from Lesotho, you may not have known this, they're called Basotho, which makes a lot of sense. And their traditional garb includes woolen blankets and conical hats. So I never would have known this trivia if not for President Trump. No American president has ever been there, and I'm calling on him today on the Alex Marlow Show to go to Lesotho and to make it the 51st state of the United States of America, and then we can really straighten that place up. So seems good, and it's noteworthy because the LGBTQI plus grant probably wasn't rooted in nothing. It was probably because of the gay stuff. So I think there's a lot more AIDS and HIV. And due to that, the stuff that came out of that documentary, and that's probably why we were cutting the checks. So it's not totally at random. All right, market's down big again today. And whenever the market goes down big, you guys know what I do. I go over and I check the price of gold, and the price of gold is flat. The price of silver also flat and slightly up. Gold is up over the last 30 days. It's up big over the last 6 months. It's up huge over the last year. And if you look at a longer window, let's say 20 years, then it is absolutely staggering the amount of gains you get with gold. The world is an extremely chaotic place. We have changing administrations. We've got obstructionist Democrats who don't want common sense to go through. Trump is doing his absolute best to try to get this economy roaring back, but he cannot do everything all on his own. I will tell you, the safest, smartest, easiest way to protect your wealth by far is to have precious metals. If you're holding precious metals, you are amply diversified and protected and safe. I have a wonderful partner in the gold space. That is Priority Gold. You go to PriorityGold.com or you text FREEDOM to 24999. They will give you that free wealth preservation guide, and you're going to understand why this is such a no-brainer, how you can protect your savings through all this chaos with gold IRAs. They got so many different options for you. They have a page where you can learn all sorts of different ways you can get invested in gold. It is absolutely silly if you're not doing that. Go to PriorityGold.com or text 24999. Text FREEDOM to 24999 today. Get that free wealth preservation guide. Check it out. You will not regret it. Guarantee it. And I also learned that there is one other nation within South Africa that's completely encompassed by South Africa. So look, Trump just gets you down on these rabbit holes and you start going through it and you don't know what you're going to learn. But we do know that we're sending money all over the world, and America is really a generous people. We shouldn't be this generous, and it's totally out of control, our generosity. But just to think that that's how we're spending our time. And so anyway, the Democrats are trying to counter Trump, and because Trump is bringing the powerful messages, he's anointing new characters, new stars. The biggest one was DJ Daniel, who we talked about on yesterday's show. I thought I had a pretty powerful explanation for why it's not disgusting what DJ Daniel stands for, that he's been sworn into 870 plus police departments in ceremonial fashion, which I think is terrific. I think it speaks to what law enforcement has once stood for in this country in terms of it being the thin blue line between chaos in our streets and a thriving democracy. And he's been attacked nonstop. Maxine Waters was the latest to attack Trump for elevating DJ Daniel. I want you to hear from him. He's been doing some interviews, and this is a young man, 13 years old, who is so wise beyond his years. This will blow your mind. Check out this clip.
But you wanna know the craziest part? Because my mom bathes me and my brothers all together. And out of nowhere, I locked up. And then my dad was calling my name, and I started going to the slow thing. And he said, "Stop playing with me." And I then I started to act, I ain't gonna lie, I started to act slow. And then as soon as he said that, we were speeding all the way, running lights, going to the hospital. And then next thing you know, I was seizing on the table. They said, "No, we're gonna have to go in his brain tonight." Ever since then, I had 13 brain surgeries, and that's how many times my personality has changed. And that's something that you don't hear from a terminally ill child. They had 5 months to live. I'm gonna keep on going into my gas tanks right now. And that's when God calls you home. You never know when God's gonna call you home. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my dad. And I know he's pretty proud of me, and I'm pretty proud of him too. And I'd like to thank President Trump, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here today.
Oof, so good. The video put out from the White House, but he was out there doing interviews, pressing the flesh with people, and just such poise, such wisdom, such a heartwarming story that the Democrats thought was just some sort of a political stunt. Instead of taking the time to try to get to know this impressive boy who will inspire so many people, they decide to make it a bad thing and to not stand for him, et cetera. And they should never live it down. Should be reminded every single day. Here's how they're planning on. Here's their big response. This came out this morning. No one could believe this was happening. Again, this is one where you're really going to miss the visuals. I will try to describe it as best we can for those of you in the audio audience. But this is how the Democrats are responding to Trump's tour de force this week with this dance compilation video. Here it is. All right, so it starts with Choose Your Fighter. They're Democrats bouncing around. This is Solhi Jessica Wu, the bento box queen, mommy of the century, and sleep deprived. They got jokes, guys. They got jokes. All right, AOC. She's got New York's 14th congressional district, youngest woman plus Latina to be elected, and she's a Trekkie. She loves Star Trek. Is Star Trek the communist one? Missy, you can help me with this. Is that why some of the Democrats like it and the Republicans like Star Wars? Yeah. Okay. But Missy's confirming. I'm getting a thumbs up on that. Okay. Great. I'm not saying I don't have a dog in this fight. Maybe I'd like Star Trek. I'm really giving it a shot. But I think that's where sort of a left coded show, I think, or series, movies. All right. Rep. Lauren Underwood, youngest Black woman elected to the Congress, co-founded the Black Maternal Office and hates balloons. Why would you hate balloons? I was playing Keepy Uppy with my kids over the weekend. You guys know that one where you just don't let the balloon touch the floor? That should be an Olympic sport. It is so fun. It's fun when you're 3. It is fun when you're 39. I had a night recently, a at-home date night with Mrs. Dr. Marlow, where we were playing with Keepy Uppy with the balloons. And we're in our late 30s. I got to admit, I think there may have been a margarita that went down beforehand, and we were playing Keepy Uppy. It is still a blast. So who hates balloons? Why would you admit that? Congresswoman Lauren Underwood is a freak. She's a freak. She hates balloons? Ridiculous. Here we go. That was Rep. Catherine Clark, now Rep. Judy Chu. She looks like the least athletic of the group. She's apparently too sweet, from California's 28th congressional district. Chinese-American woman. Incredible. And here she is, Jasmine Crockett, Texas's 30th congressional district. Texas, you have been selected and exposed. You've got to explain this person. Public defender, attorney, and she's not a morning person. Great. That's so impressive. All right. So that was a video of, I guess it's like a video game thing, like a choose your fighter meme, but the left can't meme. We learned this during the first Trump administration, that they're not good at this. And this is how they're countering DJ Daniel and all the great theatrics from Trump this week, is to do those stupid dances. I got one more unhinged Democrat before we get into a little more substance. This is Ayanna Presley going at James Comer. Let's see if this is a good look that will inspire people to the Democrat side.
Without objection, so ordered. We've put it in the record.
I have an internet.
You have what?
Mr. Chair, can I have several articles. I need to enter them. Let me just go ahead with what the articles are. What they speak to.
What's the next article?
Let me proceed. Data from Texas shows that U.S.-born Americans commit more rape
Presley,
and murder than immigrants.
Listen, this trend of you all trying to get thrown out of committee so you can get on MSNBC is going to end. We're not going to put up with it.
This is my procedural
So Ayanna Presley's called out Texas too today. She's saying that there are more rapists there. Watching Comer deal with the left-wing radicals in his committees is becoming one of my special treats. But she's apropos of nothing, just calling all of Texas rapists. So does this include the people in Jasmine Crockett's district? Does it include the people in Al Green's district? That's all I want to say here. So, because I blame them. She's trying to blame, I guess, Trump for what goes on in Texas. I guess that's the implication. I think it was Adam Carolla who pointed out that Al Green's got a ponytail and Ayanna Presley's bald, which is a interesting side about the Democrats. It's their hairstyles. I mean, she's got a condition. He's a comedian. She's got some sort of thing, alopecia, something like that. Anyway, it's such an odd thing. Out of nowhere, all Texas are rapists. Let's play some more.
Procedural
Mr.
right as a
Subramanian,
member of this committee.
You can go with Mr. Frost and Mr. Green.
I'm reclaiming my time.
That's what you want. No. Ms. Presley, I have been very accommodating to you. Mr. Subramanian,
and I take particular umbrage as a survivor of sexual violence. I will enter into the record. This is my right. Thank you.
No. It is Mr. Subramanian.
Mr. Chair?
No, you know the process of unanimous consent. You are not recognized.
I have several articles to enter into the record.
Mr. Subramanian, if you don't go, we're going to recognize Mr. Timmons.
So you guys know I just read James Comer's latest book, All the President's Money, and one of my favorite parts about it is he's got a few bombshells about the Biden family having had subpoena power or has subpoena power about the Bidens. With regards to their deals and China getting money directly to Joe and Hunter's fake investment companies. And there's a lot of great stuff in there for that. But I loved it as a congressional memoir. And he would get very frustrated when his committees would get bigger, because when his committees would get bigger, it meant that these hearings would go on longer and they're never productive. And he says the public hearings are basically a total waste. It's just content for us. It's content for us who do commentary and who like to listen to shows like this, because you just listen to Democrats yell for the cameras to try to get on MSNBC and fundraise. And then Republicans do the same stuff. The Republicans look at what's online. You got to admit this. You're going to notice this pattern. They look what's going online. They look at what's trending on a given day, and they will try to use the language of whatever is trending on socials. So that way they get more attention, they go viral, and then they can get on TV, they can raise more money. So that's the goal. Not really doing anything productive. I learned this, and it was very sad to me when I learned this, because I always had CNBC on in my early days in the virtual Breitbart newsroom. I loved it. I just wanted that raw committee hearing footage in my brain all day while I was reading the news. And unfortunately, we learned that it's mostly just a place for preening. But I do enjoy the Comer taking on these people as they try to ram through whatever talking points they have that are going to amount to nothing. There's nothing Ayanna Presley was saying there that's going to turn into anything of meaning. She's just talking. Speaking of Hunter, his art sales have plunged since his dad left the White House. Can you guys can you guys believe that? He's bemoaning the LA fires as part of this, and he's made a legal filing of some sort, which is why this is coming out today. He claims he's millions of dollars in debt. Nobody's buying his art, and he lost his house in the LA wildfires. I didn't know he lost his house. That's interesting. Did he lose a rental house, I assume? So he says he'd made well over millions of dollars, as we all know. But in the 2 years prior to 2023, he said he sold 27 pieces of art at $54,000 a pop. So 54,000, and a lot of them were prints, by the way. And the number one buyer was Kevin Morris, his own attorney, so we know what that's about. And you know that we don't know the names of the buyers. You can bet most of them are overseas people trying to curry influence. And he has sold one piece of art since his dad left the White House for $36,000. So he's got some financial woes. He's got the baby mama drama, as you guys know. He's got many children. So he's saying this as a plea for help. But for me, this is just evidence that all of it was about buying influence from the Biden family. So I don't quite get what he's trying to do here by making this stuff public. So his financial hardship is connected to the fact that his dad is no longer in a position of power where he can do favors for foreign entities, right? I mean, that's what it appears to be. So, of course, no one was going to buy Hunter's art. I would buy one. I would do it. We got to get wouldn't that be fun for the show? Because I've got this spot on the wall right behind me, if you guys can see where I'm pointing, where I know what I want to do with this, and it's not time yet to do the thing I want to do. But I feel like I could get a Hunter piece right there, and there'd be a nice spot for it on the wall. And then we could have that. We could have that be a part of the show. And the price is coming down. But I feel like the stuff's probably worth about $200, maybe $200. But he still wants 36 Gs. That's too much for now. I don't have that sort of a budget. Show's doing well, but not that well. Or we don't get that sort of a prop budget at that level. But Hunter admitting no one's buying the art since he left the office. Why not? Because they don't want any more favors from your dad, and they know your art stinks. His art was never good. Look, one of my favorite parts of Breaking Biden is I break down how Hunter's art was always a troll, and he sent signals that it's a troll. It was a cry for help, again, in many ways. He paints with a crack pipe or a cocaine straw. He blows into what looks like a cocaine straw or crack pipe, and it's alcohol-based paint. There's all this coded language to suggest that he's just really trolling. He's not really doing art. So when he's discussed his artwork. If you want to stay active, strong, and independent for years to come, you need to start paying attention to your bone and joint health today, not when it's too late. That's why I've got something for you. A free 60-second bone and joint health risk assessment that shows you exactly where you stand. Quick, real-time insights into your mobility and joint health from the comfort of your home. Think of it like a wake-up call. If you're already dealing with aches and stiffness or joint discomfort, your body is giving you warning signs. Don't ignore them. Take the 1-minute quiz today. Take it to control your health. Go to juvent.com/Marlow. Take the quiz and get your results instantly. That's JUVENT.com/Marlow. Your future self will thank you for it. Look, we only wish him the best. He is the only cool Democrat, so we'll see what happens to Hunter. But he's broke, and he is some sort of illegal filing because he has can't make money now that his dad is, now that his art business is cratered. All right. One thing I've been wanting to do is I've been wanting to play clips from the response from Elissa Slotkin to the Democrat official response to the State of the Union. And these things are always important for me, because I feel like we rarely get the unfiltered version of what the Democrats, how they picture themselves. And the same way a Trump address is imperative for us to go through, because it's how he views himself and it's how the party views ourselves. It's really the distilled version of where we're at a given moment. That's why these speeches matter. And Elissa Slotkin's speech was loaded with stuff that I think is worth your attention. So I'm going to play this for a few minutes here from, I won't play the whole thing, but there's a key section in the middle that I thought was really, really informative. Let's go through some of it right now.
America wants change, but there's a responsible way to make change and a reckless way. And we can make that change without forgetting who we are as a country and as a democracy. So that's what I'm going to lay out tonight.
Okay, so just for some background, this is a Democrat senator from Michigan, from a purple district, is where she was from. And is definitely seen as a competent up-and-comer in the party. Ultimately, her message will be indistinguishable from any other Democrat. They're all in lockstep these days. But that's kind of where she's coming from, and that's how she's posturing to the public in this response to Trump. And overall, this is not one of the worst presentations. It's very lame, but it was not one of the worst presentations. It gets much worse than this. But I'm mostly in this for the content, so let's get into it.
Because whether you're from Wyandotte or Wichita, most Americans share three core beliefs: that the middle class is the engine of our country, that strong national security protects us from harm, and that our democracy, no matter how messy, is unparalleled and worth fighting for.
Okay, so this is not the core American values. These are not the three American values. The American values, core American values, my colleague Dennis Prager always talks about, are e pluribus unum, in God we trust, and liberty. Those are the three American values. That's the core of it. I add the First Amendment, which expands on the concept of liberty a little bit, and the Second Amendment, which protects the First Amendment. To me, those are the American values. Those are the things we all need to agree on, or else we're going to have massive differences. So let's go through her three values, because, again, this is what she says we all agree with. First of all, is that the middle class is what is driving all of us. We all love the middle class. We all love paying homage to the middle class. But it's the Democrats who want the Trump tax cuts to expire, which is going to wildly raise taxes on the middle class. So they're the ones who had the Biden inflation, where all the deficit spending hit the middle class families perhaps the hardest, and working class, really. Those were the two groups that are hit the hardest by some of that, because when there's no government assistance and they're not billionaires, when you see basic stuff like energy prices and grocery prices go up, that hits the working middle class. So you can't just say the word middle class and we immediately identify with you. That's number one. Her second point is that national defense, a strong national defense, keeps us safe. That's not a value. It proves you're not an idiot if you feel that way. Of course, we think that a strong national defense keeps us safe. What else is going to keep us safe? A weak national defense? Nothing? A bunch of trainees who run track? Like, that's not going to keep us safe. A strong national defense keeps us safe. And then the last one is that our democracy is worth fighting for, which is, first of all, we don't have a democracy. We have a constitutional republic, federalist republic, representative government. It is not a literal democracy. So second of all, that was not good sentence structure. Ending the sentence in the preposition is just irritating to anyone who's an editor, and probably a lot of you who were born before 1980. So this is just not it. This is just not some sort of a deep, dynamic, rich messaging that will inspire all of us to now become Democrats. Let's play it again.
Most Americans share three core beliefs: that the middle class is the engine of our country, that strong national security protects us from harm, and that our democracy, no matter how messy, is unparalleled and worth fighting for.
It's not a democracy, and I don't know if maybe it's unparalleled, I don't know, but it's like you're the ones who keep doubting our democracy. Again, they rigged the 2016 primary for Hillary. They did not accept the results of the 2016 election. They clearly cheated in the 2020 election, not to say the election was entirely fraudulent the way some people claim, but there was a lot of cheating that went on. They rigged their primary in 2024, and then they removed the guy who they rigged it for, Joe Biden, and replaced him with Kamala Harris, who didn't get a vote. So if democracy is so great, why do they like all this stuff? Can they square that circle? Or again, there's someone that can respond. I get to respond here, but there's no response to this. But it'd be nice to kind of dig into how she assembled those three core values as the big ones. And if she really thinks that message is going to beat Trump going to the border with Tulsi and JD, how that's going to beat DJ Daniel, how that's going to beat Trump saying we're going to annex Canada and Greenland. I mean, it's just Trump is this onslaught of rich, exciting messaging, and they just have all of this milquetoast nothing that you almost not even like it's almost like what a fifth grader would come up with doing a sort of mock government.
Let's start with the economy. Michigan literally invented the middle class, the revolutionary idea that you could work at an auto plant and afford the car you were building. That's the American dream. And in order to expand and protect the middle class, we have to do a few basic things. We need to bring down the price of things we spend the most money on: groceries, housing, healthcare. We need to make more things in America with good-paying union jobs and bring our supply chains back home from places like China. We need to.
But of course, all of this is just trying to take back ideas that Trump had taken from Democrats, is that the Democrats had not done anything to drive prices down. All their deficit spending, all of their war in the energy sector, cutting off of the pipelines, et cetera, all of this stuff just made prices on basic stuff go up. And all of the manufacturing that got shipped overseas, that was both Republicans and Democrats, but it was certainly not Trump's vision for America. That's part of the nature of Trump's populist nationalist vision for America, is we need to have that manufacturing come back. We need to have America being an industrial base. So it's her suggestion that they want to do that now. Well, it's too late. You guys had decades to do that stuff, and you allowed for it to, no one took the mantle of any of those values other than Trump. Neither Republicans or Democrats were good on any of those issues. So all of this is an admission that Trump's got us by got us in the corner.
We need to give American businesses the certainty they need to invest and create the jobs of the future. And we need a tax system that's fair for people who don't happen to make $1 billion.
So this is where Democrats have more billionaires by far than Republicans. Their campaign's been bankrolled by George Soros and Sam Bankman-Fried and many other people over the years. There's Silicon Valley loaded with billionaires, traditional Democrat donors. Trump brought some of them around at the very end this election cycle, but they just say the word billionaire like it's a swear word. I don't love billionaires. I don't love the super elite. I'm a populist guy, but I'm smart enough to know that there are billionaires who do good and there are billionaires who don't do good. And just saying the word billionaire does not make it just saying it's a swear, like it's a swear word. Again, I don't know who she's messaging to, but she's messaging to very dumb people if that's coming through.
Look, the president talked a big game on the economy, but it's always important to read the fine print. So, do his plans actually help Americans get ahead? Not even close. President Trump is trying to deliver an unprecedented giveaway to his billionaire friends. He's on the hunt to find trillions of dollars to pass along to the wealthiest in America. And to do that, he's going to make you pay in every part of your life. Grocery and home prices are going up, not down, and he hasn't laid out a credible plan to deal with either of those. His tariffs on allies like Canada will raise prices on energy, lumber, and cars, and start a trade war that will hurt manufacturing and farmers. Your premiums and prescriptions will cost more because the math on his proposals doesn't work without going after your health care.
So he's suggesting, her suggestion is that all these prices are going up. He's been in office for 6 weeks, and he's got to deal with some of that stuff. He's got to get some of this down. But the eggs that everyone has been talking about, again, there's a bird flu going on. And a lot of these prices surged under Democrat leadership, and you guys did nothing. You had no ability to control it at all. So why would we trust you? It's only been 6 weeks. You guys had 4 years with Joe Biden to deal with some of these things, and you couldn't do it. So why, after 6 weeks, is this your messaging? They literally just lost an election. It's where you feel like you're taking crazy pills. They literally just lost an election running on that it didn't matter that these prices were going up, which is the case they had to make. And then now that Trump's been in there and they haven't come down in 6 weeks, now all of a sudden Trump is just trying to look for the giveaways to billionaires. Even though Trump gained massive ground in the poor and working classes, not to mention you gain ground with almost every demographic because they trust him to have a shot on these issues. So I just don't, it's noteworthy because Tapper was calling Trump's State of the Union a campaign speech. All of this sounds like a stump speech, a campaign stump speech. It doesn't really sound like there's any backbone to the arguments. They're just things that you might say that might perk up someone's interest who might be casually watching this and is largely uninformed.
Meanwhile, for those keeping score, the national debt is going up, not down. And if he's not careful, he could walk us right into a recession.
All right. So it's just general campaign rhetoric. Here we go. Some more.
And one more thing. In order to pay for his plan, he could very well come after your retirement. The Social Security, Medicare, and VA benefits you worked your whole life to earn.
He said repeatedly he's not going to do that. So how many times does he have to say he's not coming after these things until we start categorizing this as a lie? Because he said over and over, no Medicaid, no Social Security, he's not coming after those things. And so if he does, it's going to be politically completely devastating to his whole movement. So he knows better than to do that now. He's committed. He's not doing those things. So why would she say that? And then why wasn't there outrage from the media fact checkers? Probably because they don't care. They really remember the speech 2 days later. But just remember that if you're dealing with Democrats in your life, that just this is a lie. And it's important for me to point it out that they're just lying to you. He's not coming after those things to pay for the plan. He wants to pay for the plan with tariffs, by tapping America's energy sector, by having American economic boom, by cutting expenses in our government. So there's lots of ways to, quote unquote, pay for stuff. All of which was not a concern for Democrats who ran up the debt to extreme levels and could not stop spending. It was impossible for them to have any agenda item that wasn't wildly inflationary and adding to the deficit for the last 4 years.
The president claims he won't, but Elon Musk just called Social Security the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. While we're on the subject of Elon Musk, is there anyone in America who is comfortable with him and his gang of 20-year-olds using their own computer servers to poke through your tax returns, your health information, and your bank accounts?
Okay, this is my favorite line of the speech for two reasons. First of all, now they care about your own computer servers. After years and years saying that we should not talk about Hillary Clinton's emails, forget about the emails, stop talking about the emails, where she had her own computer servers that she'd set up intentionally to hide classified information. And then she wiped it with BleachBit or whatever, and then lied about it to the Congress. All that stuff had happened. And we were told not to care. And then now that Musk has got some servers, now we're supposed to care. The other thing, she's insulting these guys because, oh, they're 20-year-olds, as if that's a bad thing. I mean, there's a lot of 20-year-olds in our armed forces who protect us, first of all. So it doesn't make you a bad person just for being 20. But this is where I really think it's important to emphasize this, that she's attacking the youth. So the Democrats think that after losing the youth vote over, and if they didn't lose it overall, they certainly lost massive amounts of ground, and they're losing more ground. When Trump has got a stranglehold now in the culture, we're making immeasurable gains on college campuses like we've never seen before in terms of our movement and our values. And her retort is that 20-year-olds should not have a right to look for government waste. That is great for us. And this is the part that I really want repeated more than any other, that she does not believe, the Democrats do not believe, that if you're 20 years old, you should be able to use technology to figure out where there's waste in the government. So that's their official position, insulting 20-year-olds for wanting to clean up waste, fraud, and abuse.
No oversight, no protections against cyber attack, no guardrails on what they do with your private data. We need a more efficient government. You want to cut waste? I'll help you do it. But change doesn't need to be chaotic or make us less safe.
Why does she say that? I help you do it. Like it's just some sort of folksy. It's a very, I don't know. It was a very strange delivery. She's not going to help us do it. The Democrats don't help on anything. They wouldn't even stand for DJ Daniel. They wouldn't stand for Mark Fogel. So they're not going to help us on anything. Did every single Democrat vote to censure Al Green for his childish behavior? No. I think only 10 voted to censure him out of hundreds. Donald Trump's line was so important. The most important line in the State of the Union of many important lines was that him saying there's nothing I could do to make the Democrats happy. There's nothing I could do. So whenever you say that we're the divisive ones or divisive, sometimes you got to say divisive. It makes you sound smarter. Then just note that they will never help us do anything. If they would help us cut waste, then we would have a totally different conversation. That's all we're asking is for them to help us cut waste. But they won't. They're defending every last expenditure and every last government job.
Safe. The mindless firing of people who work to protect our nuclear weapons, keep our planes from crashing, and conduct the research that finds the cure for cancer, only to rehire them.
All right. So, let's play the rehiring point.
Hire them 2 days later. No CEO.
All right. So the rehiring is great. You don't get a permanent job just because you're in the government. We just heard this morning the CDC's rehired 180 employees that were laid off 2 weeks ago. That's terrific to me. The left think that this is a dunk, but I think it's great. You don't have a permanent job. We're trying to do a massive clean out of probably hundreds of thousands of jobs, if not a million jobs that are not necessary. And occasionally, if we overdo it by 180, then we'll hire some people back. And it's inconvenient for them. And sorry, it's not, the world is not perfect or fair. But that seems like a much better way to do things than every single person, including those who've been working from their bathtub for years, ever since COVID. That they don't all get to keep their jobs for life. So some of them will lose their jobs and maybe they shouldn't have, then we'll just hire them back right away. That sounds great to me. So I know if you're one of those people who lost the job, that would be painful. But just note that there's so much government rot. There is so much corruption. There is so much waste. She said that we're firing people who keep our planes in the air. That's just false. It's completely false. And they're trying to blame Trump for plane crashes when he'd been president for 6 weeks. Again, you can't do it plausibly. I did check with Mrs. Dr. Marlow on how much government-funded cancer research is helping her do her job of curing cancer. And she was thoughtful about it and ultimately said she's not aware of any major government studies that are breaking a lot of ground right now. And she said the vast majority of the innovation comes from the private sector. The people who are incentivized to make money in the private sector, they're the ones doing the studies. So what ends up happening is the studies are largely funded by the pharmaceutical industry. Pharmaceutical industry funds the studies because if the studies prove their product is good and necessary, then they make billions of dollars. So that's where the studies are coming from. That's where the funding is coming from because it's a multi-billion dollar industry. So it's not the government. She says that maybe there's some obscure thing that there's not enough incentive in the private sector and maybe there's something. So she reserved that perhaps you could point out something, but also the universities, which get grants, tax write-offs, they do their own studies as well on stuff as well. So the government cancer research line is a MSNBC talking point. This is not something that is a real life threat to cancer patients. It's just not. So this whole assumption that only the government only does good is just wrong. I also asked her if she thinks these studies are efficient. She said, no, they're probably mostly waste. So there you go. That is it. Share that one with all your friends around the barbecues this week. You guys can't barbecue yet. I can, especially because I got my Solaire grill. So more on that later. Let's go.
No CEO in America could do that without being summarily fired. Okay, so we've talked about economic security. How about national security? Let's start with the border. As someone who spent my whole career protecting our homeland, every country deserves to know who and what is coming across its border. Period. Democrats and Republicans should all be for that. But securing the border without actually fixing our broken immigration system is dealing with the symptom and not the disease. America is a nation of immigrants. We need.
So she's suggesting it should not be a priority to secure the border. So take that home. Anyone who's wavering politically, maybe you might be able to convince them to come over to our side. The Democrats' official State of the Union response suggests not to prioritize securing the border because the immigration system is broken. We cannot secure the border now because we have a broken immigration system. It just shows you they have no messaging. They have nothing. They don't have any arguments. They don't have any vision. There's nothing coherent here. This is all political speak. It'd be nice to interview these people. Missy, I got to do a better job reaching out to get some people on the other side on the show. It's just, I would love for them to explain this clip. I would love for people who are in the Democrat political space, commentary space, just explain to me what is she talking about? Yeah, we got it. We got it. Let's meet up offline. We're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to do some stuff. We're gonna make a bigger effort because I want someone to explain this. Let me play this again for you. Just show you what babble this is.
Someone who spent my whole career protecting our homeland, every country deserves to know who and what is coming across its border. Period. Democrats and Republicans should all be for that. But securing the border without actually fixing our broken immigration system is dealing with the symptom and not the disease. America is a nation of immigrants. We need a functional system keyed to the needs of our economy that allows vetted people to come and work here legally.
It's just not, it's not true. We were a nation of settlers. We came in and we took over a land. So it's not this, it's different than immigration. It's not the same. We came and we conquered a whole land. And then we put down roots for hundreds of years. So America became not just an idea, but a nation, a people, a homeland. So we're a nation of immigrant stuff. Does that mean we need to have an open border? We need to have every illegal alien come here? So I'm totally fine with Trump's gold visa program. If you want to pay your way in and you want to immediately assimilate, become a part of the economy, we can have a set number of people who've been through a rigorous vetting process who can do that. I'm fine with it. But it is so disrespectful for all of us to think that we are just a nation of immigrants, which means that every H-1B should be able to come in and cut wages of Americans. Every illegal alien is some sort of a hero just by nature of being here. Let's just do things the right way. We need to be a nation of law and order. That's something that should be a fact. It's not a fact because we're indulging people keep breaking our laws. So, man, really bad talking points.
So I look forward to the president's plan on that. Because here's the thing. Today's world is deeply interconnected. Migration, cyber threats, AI, environmental destruction, terrorism. One nation cannot face these issues alone. We need friends in all corners, and our safety depends on it. President Trump loves to say peace through strength. That's actually a line he stole from Ronald Reagan.
Okay, so now here it comes. Democrats are now the party of Ronald Reagan. After Ronald Reagan was a boogeyman for the last 40 years, now Democrats love Reagan.
But let me tell you, after the spectacle that just took place in the Oval Office last week, Reagan must be rolling in his grave. We all want an end to the war in Ukraine, but Reagan understood that true strength required America to combine our military and economic might with moral clarity. And that scene in the Oval Office wasn't just a bad episode of reality TV. It summed up Trump's whole approach to the world. He believes in cozying up to dictators like Vladimir Putin and kicking our friends like the Canadians in the teeth. He sees American leadership as merely a series of real estate transactions.
Ukraine, of course, a dictatorship. We're gaining ground in Europe in terms of Trump's popularity. We've got the Wilders in the Netherlands. We've got Meloni in Italy. We've got Orban in Hungary. We've got Poland. We've got all these nations that are becoming increasingly conservative. So what she's talking about is Canada, France, and Germany. In Germany, we had the conservative parties do better than they have in the past. And we could see a Canadian, the prime minister, who's largely conservative, conceivably. So this is the whole thing where our allies don't like us, and Putin is a bad guy. Okay, we get it. We don't like you. Don't like Putin. Fine. Come up with something else, though. Like, we don't look to Trudeau for friendship.
As a Cold War kid, I'm thankful it was Reagan and not Trump in office in the 1980s. Trump would have lost us the Cold War. Donald Trump's actions suggest that in his heart, he doesn't believe we're an exceptional nation.
All right, so that's the last thing. So that I want to mention, because first of all, with the Reagan point, she doesn't give anything specific. She just says, we like Reagan better. There's no specific thing she points out that Trump is doing that's anti-Reagan-esque. Trump's a peace through strength guy, as is Reagan. New wars broke out all over the world that involved Americans under Obama, under Bush, under Biden. Trump ended wars, and he did not start new wars his first term, and he's not going to start new wars this term. At least I hope not. And if he does, then we'll hear out why. I'm sure there'll be some good reason for it. So, but it is not his priority. He wants peace around the world. He's the peace through strength guy. There ever was one. And to act like Trump does not think America's an exceptional nation, that's one thing that, again, it is such projection. Barack Obama went around and gave an apology tour to foreign leaders the second he got sworn in. Joe Biden did nothing but complain about America's own people, saying that the biggest threat to America were Americans. It was Joe Biden's whole point of his security policy, was that Americans were the biggest threat to Americans. Trump goes around the world being America's cheerleader. There's no one who is committed to the American experience more than Donald Trump. It is one of his ultimate virtues, even if you don't like the guy or some of his policies, that he's an ultimate cheerleader for this country. And he genuinely, if you spend any time with him, which I've been fortunate enough to have, truly believes in the people of this nation. He's the least cynical guy in the world in this regard. There's no one who believes in America more than Trump. So to act like he doesn't think we're exceptional, he absolutely does. And it's the Democrats who have lived my whole adult life explaining to Americans why we're not that great. Obama specifically said he only believes in American exceptionalism in the sense that, like, the Czechs believe in Czech exceptionalism. So there you go. That's it. Of course, there's twice as much content, but that's enough for now on this. But it just shows you where the Democrats' mind's at. And again, you should feel good about this. It's frustrating to hear it, but you should feel good because there's no coherent message here other than Trump bad. I guess Reagan good now. Open borders, not a big deal. And the Canadians are great. Also Putin bad. I guess that's the big summary. And they really like the working class and they really like democracy, except in Ukraine where you don't need democracy. Trump is just responding by getting stuff done. He sent Tulsi and JD down to the border. Let me give you a taste of this.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your leadership and bringing the country's attention to what has been happening here at the border and the significant change that has already occurred under the short time that President Trump has been in office. Really, what you're seeing here today and what you'll continue to see is a unified effort across President Trump's national security team, the Department of Homeland Security, towards our mission, which is to ensure a safe, free, and prosperous society for Americans. As Director of National Intelligence, there are a number of areas where we are focused. The President talked about in his speech, over 21 million people have come across our borders illegally under Joe Biden's administration. There are many of them that we don't know who they are. They have not been vetted. We don't know where they are. I'll give you one quick example of one of the problems that we are getting after. From Central Asia, there were over 4,000 people who came across our borders using an ISIS-affiliated network. Our National Counterterrorism Center went through and identified those individuals. There were hundreds of them who were either known terrorists or associated with known terrorists.
Yeah, but you got the broken immigration system. That's the real issue here. So the system's broken. It's not the border's open. What does the border have to do with immigration anyway? I mean, come on. Right? Like, are we supposed to really believe that there's terrorists coming through our southern border? I talked to Gorka about it, and Gorka said 100% is the number one vulnerability we have is this open southern border. That's number one. I teased this yesterday, but we're working on a big thing. We'll do a big thing for all of you on all of the ISIS terrorists that the Trump is bringing in, and some of the worst guys on earth, some of the real bad guys. All right, I could go on, but I don't want these shows to get too long, as I often say. Over at Breitbart News, we're covering a lot of tariff stuff. Trump's kind of waffling on some of the tariffs, but there's some logic to it. I'll break this down more on tomorrow's show, but he has some exemptions for possible Mexico and Canada tariffs. A lot of it is stuff where they're in compliance of the USMCA, which is Trump's original tariff standard from his first administration. So he's not trying to cripple the American economy. So he doesn't want to do that. He wants to be mindful of that. He also, I don't think, wants to be overly punishing of nations who he does think will help him on his bigger agenda items, which are security, which are the fentanyl. He had a really interesting graphic of non-reciprocal tariff examples. This is just something for any of you in your life who are freaking out about some of the tariffs that China charges us 15% for tariffs on automobiles. We only charge them 2.5%. Helicopters, Turkey, up to 7.5%. We don't charge them any tariff. India on motorcycles, they charge us 50%. We charge them 2.4%. So there's all sorts of things. Indian whiskey, which apparently is pretty good. I don't think I've had any Indian whiskey. But they charge up to 150% in American whiskey, and we don't tariff them if they bring it here. So there's many examples like this. I'll hunt more of them down for you, bring them to you in the show. But again, it's all negotiation, and I don't like any waffling, to be honest with you, and it feels like there's some waffling going on. So clearly Trump's getting a lot of input from a lot of the free traders who he knows, and then a lot of the America First guys who want to see this through. So it's something to watch out for, but we'll get you more detail there. Border wall construction beginning. Noam saying ICE leakers have been identified and are going to face prosecution. People trying to undermine the border enforcement effort. You got Stacey Abrams over at Breitbart calling Trump a tyrant who's surrounded by complicit flunkies. This is after she got $2 billion for an NGO that had $100 in it when she got it. So one of the biggest frauds of our time. CNN keeps trotting her out like she's some sort of authority. Hamilton canceled the Kennedy Center show after Trump shakeup. See, this is self-deportation. Hamilton is self-deported from the Kennedy Center after Trump putting Rick Grinnell in charge. Grinnell calls it a publicity stunt. I think it's great. I never saw Hamilton. Maybe I'd like it. But I don't like that Lin-Manuel Miranda guy who wrote it. He is a obnoxious left-winger. All right, that'll be it for today. Good stuff. Email me at aloha@alexmarlow.com. I would like the opportunity to respond to some of those tomorrow. So hopefully I'll have a tight enough show where I could do that. Any of you who are showing the love, give me 5-star reviews. Leave a review. Leave if you're on Apple in particular, you can leave those reviews. They're very helpful, help you with the algorithm. 5 stars. All that means a lot to me. Any of you sharing the content, if you see a clip on social you like, that's all that helps us grow. I need that Marlow Show grassroots. Thanks to Misty. Thanks to any of you who want to check out our Breitbart Fight Club. Frances Martel's on today. She's the absolute best. Talking about world issues. Talking about the Hutu and Canada and other places. The 51st state. So much more for you over Breitbart.com. That's it for today. Talk to you tomorrow.